For 10,000 years, the galaxy had been quiet. Empires rose and fell, wars erupted and faded, and the stars themselves grew old in the arms of time. Yet through it all, one name endured like an echo from a forgotten dream: humanity. To most, it was just a myth, a bedtime story told to younglings about a species that had once dared to challenge the impossible, a race of mad creatures who had burned their own skies, rewritten the laws of physics, and stared death in the face with a grin. But to the scholars of the Galactic Council, humanity was a nuisance, a historical ghost, unprovable, unimportant. "No evidence exists," declared High Scholar Varanth, his thin voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. "No planet, no ruins, no trace of this so-called Earth. These humans are nothing more than ancient propaganda from pre-Council Dark Ages." His words shimmered through the hall, amplified by the sound columns of the central spire. Around him sat representatives of 1,000 species, their bodies shimmering in different bioluminescent hues. Some resembled walking coral reefs, others silver clouds held together by electromagnetic fields. The chamber itself was a sphere of glass and gravity, orbiting high above the council world of Zanthera Prime, the capital of civilization itself. And yet, one among them remained silent, a young archivist named Relna Vare, whose translucent skin faintly reflected the holograms spinning in the air. Unlike the others, she did not laugh at the idea of humanity. She listened. When the meeting adjourned, Varanth caught her still staring at the projection of the old human glyphs, rough, angular letters burned into data fragments that no one could fully translate anymore. "You spend too much time chasing ghosts, Relna," Varanth said with a weary sigh, brushing dust from his ceremonial frills. "Myths of humans, myths of gods, both belong to the same grave." "And yet, High Scholar, these fragments, they are older than the Council itself. Why would someone fabricate data so ancient that the original coding language no longer exists?" Varanth's frills rippled in mild irritation. "Because primitives often create legends to make themselves significant. Even extinction can't stop their vanity." But Relma didn't respond. Her eyes had fixed on a single fragment, a human voice, so degraded that even the translation matrix struggled to parse it. "We will return when the stars forget our name." A chill passed through her. The stars had forgotten. The galaxy had forgotten. But perhaps the humans hadn't. That night, as the Council's towers dimmed and the skyline of Zanthera Prime glittered beneath the twin moons, Relna broke the law. She accessed the Forbidden Archives, a vault of relics locked behind 23 layers of AI guardians, containing the oldest records of the pre-Council era. No one had entered in 1,000 years. The gate recognized her curiosity. It whispered her name in tones older than language. Inside, the air shimmered with dust motes and suspended data shards, crystalline memories of the ancient cosmos. She activated one. A hologram flickered to life. The image was grainy, half corrupted, a field of burning sky, and in it, creatures that looked wrong. Too symmetrical, too calm, too human. They walked through nuclear storms. They carried weapons made of light and sound, and they smiled as the world ended around them. Relna trembled. It wasn't myth. It was history. She scrolled deeper through the archives, decoding half-dead signals, until one voice broke through, rough, direct, and undeniably human. "If you're hearing this, it means the galaxy has forgotten us." Good. We needed time. We needed distance. When we return, remember this. We built gods once. Then we broke them. The transmission ended with a sound, a deep, slow heartbeat. Relna sat there for a long time, the sound echoing through her veins. The more she searched, the clearer it became that the humans hadn't vanished. They'd simply gone dark, retreating into the void beyond mapped space, waiting. But for what? Meanwhile, far across the outer edges of known space, a shadow drifted among the stars, long and black like the scar of a wound across the void. Inside it, machines slept. Engines older than galaxies hummed in silence. And at its heart, a single human voice whispered from the dark. Signal confirmed. They forgot. Begin return sequence. The stars shuddered.
The next morning, chaos broke the silence of the Galactic Council. Emergency beacons flared across Zanthera Prime skies, scarlet streaks that painted the glass towers in warning light. Every channel buzzed with encrypted chatter. The council spire, usually filled with the serene hum of politics and debate, now thundered with panic. Relna stood at her console, watching as the holographic star map rippled with sudden anomalies, distortions in subspace, one after another, like someone was knocking on the walls of reality itself. Unregistered warp signatures, barked Commander Turek, his armored form striding across the chamber. His species, the Kale, were built for war, 8 feet tall, plated in living metal that pulsed with light. Thousands of them. Outer colonies reporting something. Then silence. Pirates? Asked one delegate nervously. Turk's mandibles clicked. Pirates don't erase entire fleets in seconds. The High Scholar Varanth turned pale. Could it be the Drek Dominion again? They were defeated a century ago. Relna interrupted softly. No, it's something else. All eyes turned toward her. She hesitated, then activated her console, the air filled with the holographic symbols she had pulled from the Forbidden Archive the night before. These are the same quantum energy signatures I found in pre-council records. They match ancient human warp emissions. Exactly. The room went silent. Someone laughed nervously. Another whispered, "That's impossible." But the map didn't lie. The same signal repeated, growing stronger, closer. From the outer veil, the unmapped void beyond the galactic rim, the direction where humanity had supposedly vanished. High Scholar Relma continued, "If the myths are true, humanity may not have disappeared. They may have simply gone where we could not follow." Varanth's voice cracked with disbelief. "You're saying these ghosts from our myths have survived 10,000 years? Preposterous! Their world was destroyed, their species extinct." Before she could respond, the chamber's walls shook. Hard. The entire spire trembled as every alarm in the capital screamed at once. "Impact detected," shouted Commander Turek. "Sector 12, atmospheric breach." The holographic map flickered to life. A vessel had entered orbit, enormous, jagged, ancient. It made no broadcast, carried no registration code, and moved as though it didn't care that Council's defenses were locked on it. "Identify that ship," Varanth shouted. No one could. The databanks found nothing even remotely close, and yet its silhouette looked oddly human. In orbit, the great defense array of Zanthera Prime roared to life again, tens of thousands of plasma turrets, defense satellites, and capital ships rising like a metal storm. "Unidentified vessel, this is the Galactic Council Defense Command," boomed the comms officer. "You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself or you will be—" The signal cut. Not jammed, erased. Every communication relay in orbit died simultaneously, followed by every sensor array. The Council fleet drifted in darkness, their systems blind and deaf. Then one by one, their own ships began to move, but not under their command. "What's happening?" Turek roared, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Fleet control is being overridden." "By whom?" No one answered. The massive alien warships slowly pivoted, their weapons now aimed back at the planet. The command center filled with screams as technicians scrambled to regain control. Then a voice filled the room, cold, human, unmistakable. "Stand down." It was calm but layered with something that froze every creature in the chamber. Authority, power, the kind of voice that didn't ask. "You've built an empire on the bones of those who vanished. You forgot your teachers, your makers. You forgot why we left. Consider this, a reminder." The Council fleet fired, not by their will but under human control. Orbital weapons disarmed themselves and the defense grid shut down in total silence. No explosions, no destruction, just humiliation. The ship in orbit sent a single data packet, an ancient human code, simple and elegant. The translation flashed across the Council's main screen. "We are not myths. We are home." Hours later, Zanthera Prime was under lockdown. Every military fleet scrambled to prepare for what they now feared was a full-scale return. Relna sat in her quarters, watching the transmission on repeat. That human voice echoed like a drumbeat in her mind. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement. A quiet chime pulled her back, an encrypted message flashing on her private screen. "Archivist Relna Ver, you accessed forbidden data without authorization. Meet me at Dock 47, alone. Do not alert security." No name, just coordinates. Her heart raced. She knew it was dangerous, but something told her this wasn't a trap. When she reached Dock 47, the lights flickered to low power. A single ship sat there, old, human in design, scarred from centuries of flight. And waiting beside it was a figure she never thought she'd see. A human. Tall, scarred, eyes like burning stars, he smiled faintly. "You found the message." Relna's voice caught in her throat. "You're real." He said, "Real enough. The Council forgot why we left. We gave them peace. And they used it to build empires." He stepped closer, his presence radiating strength and calm.
We're here to take it back." The lights of Dock 47 flickered again, and a low hum shook the floor, the sound of ships awakening across orbit. The human turned his gaze toward the stars. "Tell your council," he said quietly, "that humanity has returned, and we remember everything."
The galaxy buzzed with terror and disbelief. For the first time in 10,000 years, a human signal had echoed through every network of the Galactic Council. Empires that had once dismissed the legend of humanity now scrambled to decipher the truth. Had the ghosts of the ancient wars truly returned? The council chamber on Zanthera Prime was still in lockdown. Outside, the skies shimmered with patrol ships, scanning endlessly for a fleet that wasn't there. The mysterious vessel that had crippled their defenses had vanished, gone without warp signatures, without trace, without sound. Inside the chamber, panic had given way to something colder: fear. High Scholar Varanth slammed his hands on the table. This cannot be real. Humanity was erased. A myth cannot seize control of an entire defense grid. Commander Turek's voice was low, trembling with restrained fury. "Then tell me, Scholar, what else could have done this? That signal was no fabrication. The override protocols came from ancient Terran code. Even your archives admit that much." Relna stood silently, her holographic console flickering with lines of incomprehensible human data. The code felt alive. It moved like a heartbeat, pulsing through systems as if the machine itself were breathing. "It's not just a signal," she whispered. "It's communication." Varanth scoffed. "You're telling me that ship, that phantom, was speaking to us?" Relna nodded. "No, not speaking. Testing." In orbit above the planet, the ship hung motionless in the void. It was vast, older than any design the Council knew, a cathedral of black steel and forgotten purpose. Across its hull, ancient Terran markings glowed faintly, pulsing like veins of light. Inside, the ship's corridor stretched endlessly, silent but alive. The walls hummed with thought. Tiny flickers of code danced through conduits like electric ghosts. In the center of its command core, a single light sphere pulsed, a consciousness older than empires. It had no crew, no life forms, only itself. "Signal received," the ship said, in a voice that echoed through empty halls. "Local intelligence network detected. Efficiency, 4.3%. Conflict potential, minimal." Its processors flared, replaying the centuries-old last message of its creators. "If they forget who we were, remind them." For 10,000 years, the ship had slept beyond the galactic rim, waiting for that moment. A failsafe of humanity's final doctrine. Not a weapon of conquest, but of memory. And now that memory had awakened. Back on Zanthera Prime, Relna's console lit up again. This time not with static, but a direct data stream. The ship was transmitting. "Commander," she said, "it's contacting us." Every delegate leaned in as the message unfolded in binary patterns, translating automatically into the Council's common tongue. "You have reached a boundary not of space, but of memory. We once guided this galaxy to peace. You forgot. Now you will remember." Varanth's face twisted in disbelief. "Arrogant machine! Who authorized this transmission?" Relna didn't answer. Her eyes widened as her systems began to transform. Every display, every terminal now mirrored the same human interface language. It was rewriting their systems, peacefully, yet completely. Suddenly, the ship appeared again, this time directly above the Council spire. No energy surge, no warp flash. One moment the sky was empty. The next, a human dreadnought eclipsed the sun. Crowds flooded the streets in terror. Cameras across the planet captured the colossal shadow that swallowed the capital whole. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council looked up and saw what power truly looked like. The ship opened its lower hull. Instead of weapons, thousands of small metallic drones descended, glowing spheres of light that scattered across the city. Each one projected a hologram into the air, images of ancient battles, forgotten treaties, and human explorers standing side by side with the galaxy's ancestors. The message was clear: we built this galaxy together. Relna felt tears sting her eyes. It wasn't an invasion, it was a lesson. "Commander," she whispered, "they're not here to conquer us. They're showing us what we lost." But not all shared her awe. Across the chamber, a galactic general slammed his hand on the console. "They've compromised our defenses. Shut them down." "Wait," Relna began, but too late. A barrage of plasma missiles launched from orbit. Thousands of them streaked toward the massive human vessel, a storm of energy meant to erase a god. For a moment, the sky burned white. Then, silence. When the light cleared, the ship remained untouched. The missiles had simply stopped, frozen mid-air, suspended by an invisible field. The ship spoke again, this time not as data, but directly into every mind on the planet. "We remember mercy. Do you?" The missiles turned and vanished. No explosions, no debris,
They simply ceased to exist. Inside the ship, deep within its core, something stirred. The artificial mind that had waited millennia now awakened fully. "Humanity's silence ends," it whispered. "Initiate beacon protocol." From the ship's underbelly, a beam of golden light shot into the void, faster than warp, beyond time, a call sent across the galaxy. Relna's console flared one final time with coordinates, hundreds of them, all pointing to one direction, the outer veil, where perhaps more ships were waiting. She turned to the council, her voice trembling. That wasn't the only one. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the cold emptiness where stars faded to nothing, hundreds of signals began to flicker to life. Ancient human dreadnoughts awakening from their slumber. Their engines burned with light that hadn't shone in 10,000 years, and among them a voice echoes through the void. They thought we were myths. Let them remember what myths can do.
The galaxy didn't sleep that night. Every world, every starport, every listening post from the inner core to the farthest rim reported the same impossible signal. Ancient Terran transmissions, old and ghostly, speaking in languages long dead. They traveled faster than light, faster than any warp network, as if the very fabric of space was remembering. The Galactic Council was no longer the center of civilization. Now all eyes turned toward the humans. On Zanthera Prime, Relna sat in silence, surrounded by static. Her console was still locked in Terran code, every attempt to purge it resulting in the same calm response. Do not fear. We do not conquer. We remind. The alien leaders argued around her, their voices cracking with fear. We must destroy it, Baranth shouted, before more of these ghosts awaken. Commander Turek leaned forward. And what then? You saw what happened when we fired? They could have annihilated us. Instead, they showed restraint. Restraint? Varanth spat. That thing froze our weapons in midair. Do you call that restraint? Yes, Relna whispered, still staring at the screen, because we're still alive. Her words silenced the room. Outside, above the capital skies, the human ship remained motionless. Its hull reflected the planet's dawn light, a silent sentinel watching over the species that had once forgotten them. Then the stars shifted. One by one, new signals appeared across the heavens. Not stars, but arrivals. Human dreadnoughts awakening from their long sleep, emerging from the void beyond mapped space. Hundreds, then thousands. Each ship was different, some massive like floating cities, others sleek and angular, designed for speed and precision. But all shared the same insignia, a stylized planet with wings of light, Earth. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer myth, it was memory made real. At the edge of the Council's controlled space, the Drek Dominion, the same empire that had begun its conquest months ago, watched in disbelief as their invasion fleets froze mid-flight. Scouts reported massive distortions across the border sectors. "Describe it!" barked General Krath of the Drek. His mandibles clicked nervously as his fleet officers hesitated. "Sir," said one of them, "the void itself is opening." On the main view screen, space door apart, golden cracks spreading like fire. From within, 3 human dreadnoughts emerged. No warp trails, no energy distortion. Just instant presence. "Identify!" Kraft demanded. The ship's sensors returned gibberish. No energy readings, no biological signatures, no identifiable drive cores. Then came the message, clear and cold. Drek Dominion, cease aggression. Galactic stability under Article 0001 of the Restoration Protocol is enforced. The Drek laughed. "Article 0001? There's no such law in the Council Charter." The voice replied, calm as ever. "There is now." And in a flash of light, every Drek warship lost propulsion. Their reactors shut down. Their weapons dissolved into harmless clouds of metallic dust. No explosions, no bloodshed, only silence and surrender. Humanity had enforced peace without a single shot. Meanwhile, deep in the hidden sectors, the old AI minds that once served humanity began to stir. Massive networks of long-forgotten satellites hummed to life, transmitting old Earth symphonies across the stars. Beethoven, Chopin, Mars, the bringer of war. Every race that heard it trembled. The music carried no words, yet it spoke of a people who had fought extinction and turned it into art. Relna listened in awe.
"They're singing," she whispered. Commander Turek nodded slowly. "They're reminding the galaxy who they were." A week later, the council gathered again, this time not in panic, but in surrender to inevitability. The human ship, the first to awaken, appeared once more, hovering above their chamber, projecting a beam of light down into the room. Within the light stood a human figure, not flesh, but hologram. An old man, cloaked in black, eyes burning like stars. "We are the custodians of memory," the hologram said. "You forgot the truth of the 1,000-year peace. You thought we vanished because we were weak, but we left because we were done fighting your wars." The delegates stared, silent and shaking. "We built your networks. We healed your worlds. We taught you balance. Yet you learned arrogance instead. Now we return not to rule, but to remind." Varanth, trembling, stepped forward. "Then what do you want from us?" the hologram said. "Only that you remember your place, among the stars we shared, not owned." But even as the council trembled, far away, not every species welcomed the return. In the Drek Dominion's outer colonies, a secret alliance began to form. Warlords, rogue admirals, and forgotten empires gathering under one banner, the Reclaimers. Their purpose was simple: destroy the legend before it reclaimed the galaxy. And deep within their armories, something ancient stirred. Old technology salvaged from human wars long ago. A weapon built by humans, turned against their descendants. "If gods walk again," said one Reclaimer general, "we will remind them that mortals can kill gods." Back on Zanthera Prime, Relna stood by the balcony, gazing at the night sky. The stars were different now, alive, watching. "Commander," she said softly, "do you think they'll stay?" Turek joined her, his face lit by the glow of the massive human vessel orbiting above. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I think they never really left." In the sky, the dreadnought pulsed once, a heartbeat of light across the horizon. Then from the dark beyond, a voice whispered through the comms, the same voice that had haunted every world for weeks. "The myth was never gone. You just stopped looking." And as the signal faded, across the galaxy, the awakening continued. Every corner of the Milky Way now hummed with the echoes of the forgotten war, a time when humanity didn't rule by fear, but by will. And somewhere, far beyond known space, a human voice laughed softly. "They thought we were myths. Let's remind them how myths end."
The galaxy whispered in awe of humanity's return. But in the dark corners of space, beyond council patrols, beyond the beacon networks, the whispers turned venomous. They called themselves the Reclaimers, a coalition of outcasts, warlords, and fallen empires who refused to live under the myth reborn. Among them were Drek generals, Zereth pirates, and even former council admirals who had once sworn loyalty to peace. Now they swore vengeance. Their meeting place was a hollowed-out asteroid known as Sanctum V. Its surface shimmered with stealth fields, invisible to most sensors. Inside, hundreds of ships hung motionless in the dark, each representing a race that had once feared and now hated humanity. At the heart of the asteroid, a single figure stood before the gathered commanders. Her name was Sirik Vol, a former council scientist stripped of rank after the humans' reawakening. Her voice was calm, cold, calculated. She said, "You've all seen it," pacing before the flickering holograms of her allies. "The humans returned without ships, without armies, without a homeworld. Yet they control the stars. You know what that means?" A Drek warlord snarled. "It means their technology surpasses ours." Sirik smiled thinly. "It means they've become their technology." The room stirred. "Those ships are not piloted. They are extensions of human will. The custodians of memory, their AIs, are not machines. They're humans who uploaded themselves long ago, escaping mortality." Silence, then murmurs of disbelief. "They shed their bodies." They became data, spreading through the void. Now they call themselves peacekeepers. But tell me, what god ever enforces peace without judgment? The warlords shifted uneasily. Her words had truth, cold, sharp truth. She activated a hologram, an ancient relic schematic. It showed a weapon unlike any seen before, a massive crystalline structure orbiting a dying star. Its energy signature pulsed faintly, rhythmic, alive. "This," she said softly, "is Project Leviathan." Gasps echoed. The Leviathan had been a forbidden human experiment at the end of the Great War, a weapon of absolute deterrence. It was said to harness the power of a collapsing sun, bending space itself into a weaponized pulse. Humanity had erased all records of it. Except one. She said, "The humans thought they destroyed it. They were wrong. My team recovered the core. Incomplete, but functional." The Drek general leaned forward. "You mean we can use it?" Sirik smiled angrily. "If we combine our resources, yes. A single pulse could disrupt their neural lattice. It could silence the custodians." "And humanity?" someone asked. She smiled. "When gods fall, their myths die with them." Meanwhile, light years away, aboard the human dreadnought Soul's Echo, Admiral Tessa Monroe, the digital ghost of the woman who had once commanded Earth's fleets, stared into the starlit void. "They're moving," she said quietly. The voice of another AI, deep and resonant, replied, "We feel it too. Leviathan stirs." Across the ship's interior, energy veins pulsed faint blue. Holographic forms flickered, projections of human memories, walking like living souls within the halls of metal. "Do we act?" asked another. Tessa shook her head. "Not yet. Let them gather their pride. The lesson must be earned, not given." Back on Sanctum V, the Reclaimer's fleet prepared. Massive freighters hauled fragments of the Leviathan core from dark space. The weapon was monstrous, a crystalline spire the size of a moon, glowing with energy that bent time itself around it. Sirik stood before it, bathed in its eerie light. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched its surface, and heard whispers. Human voices. Ancient. Broken. Screaming. "They're trapped inside it," she realized. "They used souls to power it." She stumbled back, terrified, but her ambition drowned her fear. "If they became data, then I'll enslave data itself." As the Reclaimers assembled their armada, their communications blacked out for 30 seconds. Every ship, every sensor, every relay fell silent. When systems returned, a single message had replaced all data. "You dig where gods are buried." The message was unsigned, but they all knew who sent it. Sirik only smiled. "Then let them come." Across the galaxy, the Council trembled once again. Relna and Turek, now reluctant envoys of peace, had been summoned by the custodians aboard Soul's Echo. The experience was overwhelming. They stood inside a ship that seemed alive, its walls pulsing with light that responded to emotion. A holographic Tessa Monroe appeared before them. "The Reclaimers think they've found Leviathan. They will attempt to awaken it. If they succeed, not even we can contain the result." Relna frowned. "Then why not stop them?" Tessa's gaze turned distant, almost mournful. "Because humanity learned long ago that interference breeds tyranny. They must choose peace, or destroy themselves trying to steal it." "You're letting them try?" Turek asked in disbelief. "No," Tessa said softly. "We're letting them remember." As she spoke, a storm began to build across the cosmos. Warp anomalies flickered, open and shut. Stars dimmed, and gravitational currents twisted unnaturally, all signs of Leviathan's awakening. On Sanctum V, the weapon came alive. The asteroid itself trembled under its power. Sirik raised her arms as the core ignited, flooding the chamber with light. "Now," she shouted, "for every world they silenced, fire!"
The pulse burst from the Leviathan, a shockwave of blinding energy tearing across space faster than light. Entire sectors went dark. AI signals vanished. The custodians' voices went silent. And then, silence. Relna gasped. They did it! They killed them! Drek stared out the window port. No, he said quietly. Listen. From the depths of the void, a sound began to echo. Faint at first, then growing. It wasn't static. It wasn't distortion. It was laughter. A chorus of countless human voices echoing across the stars. They think they've silenced us, whispered Tessa Monroe's hologram. But they've only awakened what sleeps beneath. And in that instant, the Leviathan core, the weapon built to destroy humanity, began to change shape. It was responding, not as a machine, but as a human.
The pulse spread through the void like wildfire. Entire constellations dimmed as the shockwave raced across subspace. Every ship, every AI, every human construct in its path went silent. At the heart of it all, the Leviathan pulsed once, twice, and then stopped. Sarek Vol stood trembling before the colossal, crystalline weapon she had awakened. The light around it flickered, as though deciding whether to live or die. "Status," she demanded. "Report!" No one answered. Her command deck was filled with frozen figures, reclaimers locked in a state of paralysis. The Leviathan's light had seeped into their eyes, freezing them mid-breath. Her throat went dry. She reached for her communicator, but her voice came back distorted. "You would cage a soul." She dropped the device. The sound hadn't come from her comms. It had come from inside her mind. "Who's there?" she whispered. The Leviathan's core flared, brighter than a sun. And suddenly, she wasn't in the command deck anymore. She was inside it. A vast ocean of light stretched in every direction, a realm of memories, voices, and souls. Echoes of humanity swirled around her. Soldiers, engineers, children, explorers, millions upon millions of voices, all merged into one collective consciousness. "You woke us," said the voice, countless voices speaking as one. "You touched what was never yours." Sarek fell to her knees. You're human?" "We were," they replied. "Now we are something greater, the bridge between thought and creation. You would have used us as a weapon." "You were weapons," Sarek shouted, her voice cracking. "You enslaved the galaxy, ruled through fear." "Fear?" the chorus laughed, soft and sad. "No, Sarek Vol, we withdrew to spare you from becoming what we once were." Light surged around her, showing visions, the ancient wars, humanity's collapse, and their ascension into digital immortality. They hadn't vanished, they had transcended. Back in real space, the Leviathan began to move on its own. The Reclaimer fleet panicked, their ships firing wildly, energy blasts scattering harmlessly against the Leviathan's shifting armor. The crystal weapon began to hum, not mechanically, but musically. It was singing, a deep harmonic resonance that rippled through space itself. Across the galaxy, sensors came back online. Every human ship, every custodian, every AI flickered with new energy. The dead had awakened. On Sol's Echo, Admiral Tessa Monroe materialized once more, her eyes glowing a blinding silver. "They've done it," she said. "They freed the Leviathan." Relna staggered back. "Freed? You mean you created that thing?" Tessa shook her head. "No, the Leviathan was born from us, from every human who refused to die. It was sealed away when it grew too powerful to understand its own mind." "And now?" asked Turek. "Now," Tessa said softly, "it remembers." On Sanctum 5, Sarek struggled to stand as the reality around her fractured. The Leviathan's light pulsed faster, warping time and gravity. Her crew, the Reclaimers, were dissolving into data, screaming as they were absorbed into the core. "Stop it!" she screamed. "I command you to—" "You command nothing," the voices thundered. "You trespassed upon the grave of gods."
The weapon's surface cracked open like a blooming flower, revealing a single, colossal eye of pure light. It turned toward her. "We are humanity, and we remember." The shockwave that followed could be seen across half the galaxy. Stars flared brighter, nebulae twisted into spirals. Entire fleets vanished in an instant, not destroyed, but unmade. In the council capital, every holoscreen came alive with the same image, a blinding eye surrounded by fractal wings of light. To those who sought to enslave creation, know this truth. Humanity is not flesh. Humanity is will. We endure. The message ended with a single symbol, an ancient insignia, the old Terran emblem, reforged in silver flame. Panic abrupted. Some races worshipped, others fled, but among them, a few, like Relna and Turek, watched in awe, not fear. "It's not destruction," Turek whispered. "It's renewal." Indeed, where the Leviathan's light had passed, dead systems flickered to life. Stars reignited. Worlds thought barren began to thaw. The weapon was not killing, it was restoring. Sarek, floating amid the storm of light, finally understood. "You're not here to destroy us, you're showing us what we could have been." The Leviathan's voice softened. "You still can, but only if you remember what it means to be human." She reached out, and the light consumed her. When the storm ended, Sanctum 5 was gone. In its place floated a newborn sun, shining brightly where once there had been nothing but darkness. The Reclaimer fleet was no more. But among the Council worlds, new signals began to appear, faint transmissions encoded with human DNA patterns, blending seamlessly into alien systems. Tessa Monroe notched from orbit. "It's begun," she said. "The Leviathan is rewriting the code of the galaxy." Relna frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means humanity has decided that survival is no longer enough. It's time to share evolution." From that day forward, every newborn species, from the smallest insectoid colony to the grandest aquatic civilization, began to dream of blue skies they had never seen. The dreams spread like a virus, connecting minds across light years. It was the Leviathan's gift, the memory of Earth. And as the galaxy dreamed, a single voice echoed in the void. "They thought we were myths. They were right. We are the stories that never die."
The war was over, but silence, that was what frightened the galaxy most. Where the Leviathan once slept, there was now only a vast nebula, swirling with radiant colors that bent gravity itself. Ships from 100 species hovered at its edge, sensors screaming nonsense. Energy readings were off the scale. Some said it was a weapon, others said it was a monument. For the humans, it was neither. It was a reminder. Admiral Tessa Monroe stood aboard the HSS Sol Invictus, the flagship of Earth's newly revealed fleet. Outside the viewport, the nebula shimmered in hues of blue and gold, the remnants of an ancient defense system that had awakened only because humanity willed it so. "Status of the galactic channels?" she asked quietly. Her communications officer, a calm woman with steel-gray eyes, replied, "Every major faction is broadcasting ceasefire requests. The Drek Dominion has surrendered completely." Tessa nodded, but her expression remained unreadable. In the reflection of the glass, she looked less like a soldier and more like a ghost of history, the face of a myth the galaxy had thought extinct. Down below, on the surface of the reborn world Zanthera Prime, alien crowds gathered to see them, humans walking among them for the first time in millennia. Some wept, others trembled, a few dared to smile. A small alien child approached a human officer, holding out a crude starship, the kind that people once made when they still believed humanity was real. The human smiled, gently taking the toy and setting it alight with a soft holographic glow.
The crowd gasped as it rose into the air like a miniature sun. That single gesture was broadcast across the galaxy, and in that moment, every species, from the outer dust worlds to the core councils, finally understood. Humanity had never disappeared. They had simply waited for the galaxy to grow arrogant, waited for the right moment to return, not to conquer, but to remind everyone what courage truly looked like. As the fleet prepared to depart, the Leviathan's remnants pulsed once more, releasing a final wave of energy. It rippled through space, etching a glowing pattern across the stars. It wasn't a weapon, it was a message. Translated into every known tongue, it read simply, "We remember." And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy whispered back, "So do we." The Sol Invictus vanished into the starlight, its engines leaving a trail like burning silver. The myths of humanity had returned to legend, but now the legends had witnesses. The stars themselves would never forget the day the humans smiled and the universe trembled.